Hi, hello, how are you? Good morning. Short and sweet. I just wanted to simply share um, the really simple ways I've gotten through so many Michigan winters. Just living in a car with no heat source, really barely even using the heat of the vehicle. Primarily just relying on your own body heat residually to radiate a space to keep you warm safely and so comfortably. There is a testament I just want to give to the amount of rest your nervous system can really receive when you are not in stagnant air at all, and you actually allow your body to fluctuate in producing it and keeping its own core temp, even while being exposed to the fluctuations of the temperature outside. I think it's had a huge effect on my health. I think mentally, truly, maybe even more than physically. Being able to rest in the fresh open air as often as possible. And a simple way that I've been able to do that, even through, up into negative 15 degrees, is about maybe negative 20, not with wind chill, is probably about the coldest I've ever done with no heat source. And I really don't recommend ever going below those degrees without a heat source. I had an experience I want to share with you, not to scare you, but just for your awareness. I trained sled dogs for a season, and I attended a symposium where sled dog mushers from all around the world attended and shared experiences. And there's a gentleman, I forget his name. I remember his first name, I believe, was John, but he extends his training season most years by crossing the line of the Arctic Circle. And it's awesome because technically, I think it's our government has a ban around the entire Arctic Circle where you're not allowed to bring vehicles or crafts of any kind whatsoever. But you can tow a vehicle on a sled by your sled dogs, and then once you're past that certain radius of ban and closer to the North Pole, then you're allowed to use equipment. And so he would literally tow his snowmobiles up there on sleds, and then once he's past that band, he would break trail with them for the dogs. Anyway, it's not why I'm sharing this. He had an experience in a race where it hit neg 40, or even colder, and he had, top of the line, a 0 degree sleeping bag, the best out there. It's all fur and feathers. Synthetically, I don't believe there's anything that can radiate and hold heat as much as fur and feathers. And so a down sleeping bag, top of the line gear. He woke up having no movement in the lower half of his body because the blood had pulled from his legs all the way to his core to protect his organs in his sleep. So it took him hours. He had to crawl on his arms and start a fire and throw his legs over the fire and just cuddle that fire until he was able to bring blood back in his legs. And he's very close to becoming permanently paralyzed because of that experience. So he shared, he's like negative 30, negative 40. If it's colder than that, it could be a micro pinprick in your sleeping bag that's allowing that cold to let in. That's all the air that's needed to drain, so to speak, all your residual body heat. So anything colder than neg 20, I won't do without a heat source. But for those of you that are car camping, that are facing rent issues, that are afraid to be outside in the cold, I just got to show you. It's really simple. You go to a military surplus store anywhere, you're within hundreds of miles of one, wherever you are in the country, I'm sure. Pick up a 0 degree sleeping bag, just like this. They often have the button snaps, a zipper. You're gonna have a secondary liner. Usually, it's just two sleeping bags, full of goose feather, and that is rated for 0 degrees. So just these two things right here, it's a tiny little ball. When I roll it up, it's a couple pounds maybe. That has saved my life more than pretty much almost any gear I've ever had. And anytime it's like 20 degrees or above, I for the most part don't even need to be fully in the bag like I am right now, like actually fully bundled up. What I'll do is I'll lay it over top of me like a blanket, and I'll just have my feet in the far end. Now, when it's colder than 20 degrees or you're exposed to wind, what I'll do is, and recommend, is just throwing a wool blanket inside of it And not having too many layers on the inside of the 0 degree bag, because one element I've noticed is when I'm doubled up here with 2 wool blankets. Um, any more than that, and the residual heat down at your feet won't hit the top of this first down sleeping bag, and you want the residual heat to be hitting the down feathers in here, because that really radiates around you more than a wool blanket. When a wool blanket will really condense it. And so what I've noticed is if you have layers too thick down at the feet and the sleeping bag itself is exposed to more of the cold of the outside than it is to the heat from your body on the inside, it'll counteract the ability to hold heat, especially for your toes. That's the most challenging part, is keeping the blood in your all the way down to your toes and back. So yeah, that's really it. And then, if you really need to, for the most part, I don't even sleep. I sleep nude, as often as possible. But if you got to do, wear some thermals, that's a huge thing. And then the final recommendation I have are emergency blankets. If you haven't seen them, if you're not familiar, they're the space blankets that are silver or gold reflective. They reflect 90% of all heat. Literally just this salt lamp right here, puts off a small degree of heat. If you wrap a space blanket around that, it's going to just literally create a furnace blasting back at you. So if you wrap the space blanket in a layer, it's going to be really annoying because every time you move, it's going to crinkle and be really loud. But that just might be the tool that literally saves your life. So, and that's like $2 to buy at online. They're a little more expensive in store, $5, whatever. But that's pretty much it. Oh, the last recommendation: wool ponchos. Getting as much pure wool as you can. Blends are okay, but you really want 100% wool, and especially like it's only like 20 degrees right now. But my radiant body heat has been filling up this bag and these blankets all night, that I'm perfectly fine to be exposed to it. My core temperature is up there. But I wanted to mention the ponchos because that's one element you can wrap your head. It's really great for cinching down. Most 0 degree bags, especially any sleeping bag designed for the cold, is going to have a cinch like a hood. And this is just a double way to do that, because one of the most challenging parts of sleeping in the extreme cold with no heat source is your nose. It's going to be the tip of your nose right here. And without limiting the airway, this is a simple way to keep the tip of the nose warm. And also why the wool poncho I recommend so much is that as you move, as you get up to take a piss in the middle of the night, you got to grab a sip of water. It's the best way I found to really condense the residual heat around you, so you're not losing it immediately. Like your back, it'll wick away all your body heat instantly the second you're out in the cold. So it's just a real easy way to keep it, and then to be able to get back into bed while maintaining that residual heat. And then the final thing I don't have next to me is a piece of hide. I have a piece of bison hide that I've had for about a half decade, and I will wrap the bison hide around my head right here, just like the same aspect of cinching the hood. The hide actually is the best thing I've found, because it really conforms to the contours of your face, and it doesn't allow air. Because of the weight of it, it'll completely prevent the cold air from getting up under it. So I can have it right here on the edge of my nose, not blocking any airway. But even 0 degrees, -15, I can be intaking that cold air without it causing me to lose the blood in the tip of my nose. Anyway, holy crap, this is 10 minutes. I didn't think this would take that long. There's my survival advice for sleeping in neg temperatures with no heat source.